Xtrfy is updating their M4 and their M8 to the M64 and the M68. I believe this is our first new release from Xtrfy since we were able to get our hands on Zaya's rail. And no, the new ones are not just updated clones from the old ones. It's the M4 and the M8 with the cherry on top. And I'm going to break it all down for you in this video. That's after a quick word from our sponsor being Xtrfy and their new Nomad mobile gaming controller. To find out more information on the Xtrfy Nomad mobile gaming controller, take a look at the links down in the description. Now, as far as in your box, of course, you're going to get your mice. You get a rubber cable, which I guess is for whenever you're using it with the AK dongle. Maybe the rubber removes any interference. I'm not too sure. Because you also get a braided cable here, a little bit more flexible. Me personally, I've always used it with a braided cable with my test, and it was perfectly fine. You get Xtrfy sticker, some extra feet, and then your high-speed dongle. First, what I'd like to do is give you some raw measurements of both of these mice. I'm going to slap up the box, the manufacturer's measurements up top here of the new ones and the old ones so you can see the difference. But again, I want to give you raw, real measurements, and we're going to kick it off over here front to back. Hopefully you guys can see that in the camera there. Our next is going to be that grip point right underneath the buttons where I think our fingers would rest. If we come up to the front, it's pretty much streamlined up here. Not much different at all. When you come to the back, you have a slight flare out, but I'm talking mild, like you really not even noticeable. And then come up to the top right by the buttons here. That is that flare out. And you have, again, a very mild flare out at the top of the buttons right there. Now let's go on and get that hump right in the middle from the buttons and the sensor. You can see that right there. That is that primary hump. And on the back, you can see where it kind of dips off right back there. That's where it starts falling off of the hump. Now, of course, the biggest difference on this one, on the M68, is the drop on the front. And I'm going to try to do this without pressing the buttons down right on the tippy top. And you can just see how absolutely low those buttons sit. That's what really separates this from other mice. Now let's go on and get the measurements of this guy here. Stretching it out, let's go on and get that full length right there, front to back on the length. And let's go on and get this grip width, which is, again, quite an interesting one here. You can see that. But you have some drastic curves, which we'll talk about here in a second. And then we come to the back, to the flare out. That's where that curve kind of comes into life. So if you look at that measurement we just had, and then to this back one, again, it just totally swoops. Like, just look at that, like, holy smokes. And then coming to the front, you can see where it comes in quite a bit right there. And same deal here. Those buttons are recessed down quite a bit. I'm going to try to do this without pressing the buttons, which is kind of tough. And you can see that right there. Again, I'm trying not to press the button, so that is a bit tough. Now, if we go from the sensor to the middle, if we look at that hump, there is our hump. And then when we come to the back, this is right by the back skate. Let me go on and get it this way. It might be a little bit more accurate for us. Where that hump kind of dips off back in that palm space back there. And I don't remember, did I get that grip width? Let me get that grip width one more time. Just to show you here, this is right by the buttons where I believe your thumb would be resting. And again, I want to show you that flare out on the back end right back there where you can see it drastically flaring out. Now for the test that's going to really show you the difference of these mice, showing you, again, the heat signature whenever you grip this. Now, this will be different from hand shape in your grip, but again, for the majority of us with medium to large hands, this is what it's going to look like. Let's go ahead and start off here with the M68. And whenever I take this mouse, it's definitely kind of a relaxed claw, I would say, almost into that palm, because for me, my fingers rest across it. And why it's like that is those buttons are so low. So my fingers aren't sitting up there, kind of throwing me into that fingertip. It rests down, my fingers roll over the mouse here, and then just set like that. Now, with it gripping like this, I find myself kind of just using the back button. When I got to reach for the front one, it's a little bit of a pain. But anyways, let's get this heat signature transferred across this mouse, get it underneath the camera, and you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about here. So there we go. We're taking it off, and you can see it's right back there. And just look at that finger right over here. Look at it roll from here up to there. Same over here on this button. It's like, oh my goodness, it almost gets like that ergo type of heat signature, right? Because you're seeing it rest right back here. It's not fully into my palm. What you're seeing, that heat signature is pretty much right here, not deep in the back of my palm. And then you see those fingers roll up to the front. Again, I can't state it enough, with those buttons rolled down like that, which we'll talk more about in the actual use of it, but it really pulls this mouse into you, giving you that ergo type of feel. So really cool right there, seeing that heat signature. Now coming over here to the M64, let's get some more of that heat going on this. And I get the same vibe whenever I was using this, where you would think this is more or less like an ergo type of mouse. But whenever I gripped it, I again caught myself like this, pretty much same as that one. And I think where we're getting this from is the dip of the front buttons, right? So usually it would be up here and I might catch myself engulfing the mouse a little bit more, but here with it dipping down, I rest right here by the buttons. It's resting right on my knuckles, and then right on that, again, inner part of the palm, right where it starts right here. And then of course my thumb is resting into that groove. Again, put me really close to that back button. I can reach that front one a little bit here, but again, still on both of these mice, since it's dipping down so much, I catch myself mainly using the rear button. Anyways, coming underneath the heat here, I'm going to release it. And you're going to see a lot of the same with maybe a little bit more of that flow. So again, you're seeing that back bit of the palm here flowing up onto that button up there and then right over here. But you're seeing it again being a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more full compared to the M68. Coming over here on the side, you can see that thumb, and it's almost connecting into the back of that palm if I move my hand so you can see. So you're seeing that thumb lock in there, and then over onto this side. So yeah, kind of ergo type of shape, but again, it's still throwing me into that relaxed claw, not really a full-blown palm. If I try to palm it, again, since the buttons are so low, I get into, again, my fingers got to crunch up here because those buttons are so low. Now, I don't want to sit here and bore you too much with shape and dimensions and feel in the hand, but you all know that's what I'm passionate about. Because again, specs, again, they've gotten so good in mice, but the shape is what's key here. And talking about the original M4 and the original M8, I really want to emphasize how the new ones, the 68 and the 64, are not just clones of these, right? So number one, starting with the biggest difference, the M8 over here to the M68. This mouse is so much smaller, and the only thing I need to show you is right there. Like, just look at that length. And if I set it here, I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but you can pretty much see the M68 kind of just flaring out from it there. It is such a drastic difference. Like, just look at that. It's like, holy smokes, this is a mini mouse, you know what I mean? This is definitely more of that medium, and it is night and day. This is definitely too small for me, and this one I had such a blast using. Now, coming over here to the M4, looking into this one, again, it feels a little bit more, I don't know, would I say streamlined, a little bit more, I don't know, easy to use, a little bit more natural. I really like the original M4. Over here, I just, you know, going one-to-one, they're very close. They're a lot more similar than these two for sure. But again, I really like the original M4. Coming over here, I feel like, and I think it's the dip in the buttons. That's probably the difference here, is when you dip this in the buttons, that hump just hits me a whole lot more because it's dipping down like this. This one with the buttons not dipping down, again, I can play around with it and just maneuver it a whole lot more when this one is, again, throwing me down. So, no, they're not just clones here, and I'm not just talking mainly because the button dip, which, yes, that is the biggest difference, but again, as far as shape, they are significantly different. So don't think they're clones. These are completely different mice. Now, after we got a look at the dimensions and again, the heat signature, I want to talk about actually using this in gameplay. Now, I don't play many FPS games lately, maybe a little bit of Xtrfy here and there, but Destiny is pretty much my go-to game. So we got a little bit of a PvE, kind of fast-paced here and there. But again, talking about using the M64, again, looking more like an ergo, which a lot of people would think, it's not really like that, again, Death Adder type of ergo or EC ergo that a lot of us are used to putting your hand in. Because again, when you pull your hand into this, that back hump back here is truly prominent in the back of your palm here. And again, you kind of feel yourself trying to curl your thumb into the side. So medium to large hands like mine here, I feel like a lot of us, again, are going to keep our hands like that. And it was nice playing Destiny because your hand almost rests on it, if that makes sense, and then that curl over there. But since this groove is coming out drastically on the side over here, you don't catch yourself kind of flicking really fast, because even right now, just going like this, again, it's hitting me in the back of the palm and it's kind of rolling around right there. So I would definitely class the M64 more or less like a slow pace style of game, because again, it really locks into your hand resting down like that. Now coming to the M68, this one was really, really cool. It definitely feels Logitech G Pro for sure, minus the drop down of the buttons up there. Like no joke, this feels like a Logitech G Pro with lower setting buttons. I absolutely love this. And why I love this mouse is, again, with those low buttons resting down. And when I was using these mice, I don't look at marketing material or anything before I test products. I like testing them, getting my own peace of mind. And then, when I'm getting close to the end of my test, then I start looking at some of that stuff. And it was really funny because, again, when I was using this M68, I'm like, wow, man, I got a whole lot of control with this ambi mouse, which I usually don't. I usually need like an ergo mouse to get this kind of control. And when I started reading the Xtrfy stuff where they talk about the low slew buttons where it's kind of grooving you down in there, it results in better control and stability. And I was like, holy smokes, that's nuts. That's exactly what was going through my mind using this. And why that is, again, is those low recessed buttons there kind of just rolling down, which puts your hand almost into, again, that ergo type style where it's not just your fingertips up on the mouse up here, it's actually forcing your fingers to kind of go down. Now you can fingertip it if you want, but again, I think where these mice shine is when you actually utilize those low set buttons and your fingers kind of roll down. It locks in there, and yes, it does give you that control. Hopefully that makes sense as far as talking about my time using it. Again, it really shocked me that, again, what was going through my mind matched up to a T to what Xtrfy was saying. That was really cool. And again, with me being an ergo fan, as many of you know, you might be thinking, okay, I'm going to like the M64 more as far as my gameplay. But no, believe it or not, the M68 I absolutely loved, and I just wanted to keep gaming with this. Now, as far as the glide and feet on these mice, you can see they have the big feet on the bottom and then the top. You all know that is my favorite. I don't like those tiny ones in the corners with splits. You get a really nice smooth glide here. Now, out of the box, it does not include or it does not have the center foot installed. You can see over here, I did install it on the black one just to feel the difference. And yes, I can feel a difference. Coming over here to the M64, it's really butter smooth. If you grip a little tighter and you press more, you don't feel that drag in the middle. Coming over here to the M68, if you press a little bit harder, you can feel that slight drag in the middle. So I do recommend just slapping on that middle foot. I don't even know why they just don't put it on. Is it to say it's lighter weight or something? I don't know. Trust me and put it on. It feels so much better. Now, as far as the coating on these mice, yes, the white one does feel a little bit more grippy than the black one, but it's not as much of a drastic amount as we saw in the new Viper, the V3 one, where the white one was like that soft type of coating. Again, you do notice the white one here being slightly grippier. Coming over here to the black one, it is still very grippy, but this almost has like that butter smooth texture when, yes, this one is still smooth, but you can almost hear the graininess of the black one. It's really weird and it's so mild. And I think why it's so mild is, again, my black one over here has the massive groove, so my fingers are forced to lock into that, when this one, again, is more streamlined. But yes, just kind of petting across them, you can tell that white one has a little bit more of that softer coating, if we can even say that. Let's go and take a look at the weight of these mice. And on my M64, I did put that included skate on in the middle, and that's going to make a minute difference for sure. But looking at this, we're getting right at 54 grams. Now, on these mice, you do have this little rubber cover here for your charging port, or you can use it wired, which I don't know who's going to use that wire on the back. But anyway, slapping them without that rubber cover, we're getting right at 52 grams. So, wow, that actually, let's just weigh that itself. Okay, so it's not coming up there, but whenever we get it on here, we're getting 52. So this little rubber cover must be too light by itself. And then when we put it on here, we're getting 54. So really cool to see that difference. Coming over here to the M68 with rubber cover on, we are getting right at 56 grams. popping that cover off. Let's see if it also comes out to that 2 gram difference. We are getting 55 grams, so only 1 gram difference. So maybe the white rubber weighs less than the black one. Now let's go and take a look at the build of these mice. And we're all quite familiar, Xtrfy products being built like tanks. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh, hey, I gripped a mouse like this or whatnot here and there. I'm going to bust out the force gauge meter, and we're going to see if there's any flex on this, pressing it into pounds, and we'll see that flex together if we have any. So starting over here by the side buttons where I think our thumb would be resting, I'm going to press this in. We're getting all the way up to 12 pounds, and I'm not seeing any flex. The buttons aren't actuating or anything. Let's go up towards the front. And again, you guys are seeing this live with me here. No flex whatsoever. Let's start on that top shell up there. None right there. Other side. You know what I'd be more curious about? And I'm going to pop this out just so we can see if there's any flex. Is there going to be any flex with this little connection point back here? No, there is none. Right there. I will tell you, as I'm pressing this, I'm feeling a good bit of flex on the bottom bit here, which of course you're going to notice on a lot of mice, and this is like right around 6 pounds below the sensor where I start getting flex. But let's be honest, if you're pressing your mouse on the bottom up to 6 pounds, you're using it wrong. Flip it over. You should be using it this way, not this way, right? Anyways, let's go over here and take a look at this guy, pressing it in by the buttons here, up to 15 pounds. No, wait, hold up. I think I am... Yep, on this one, I am getting a little bit of flex up by 12 pounds. I'm not sure if you guys can see that. It's absolute minute amount. It's not actuating the buttons or anything, but right at 12 pounds, I'm getting some flex. But holy smokes, if you're gripping this thing 12 pounds, whew, wow, you're a tight gripper. I thought I was a tight gripper, right? Coming up to the top here, again, up to 12 pounds, no flex. Over here on the side, let's get up towards the front where we'll be gripping our fingers. 12 pounds, still no flex. Let me see if we got that flex on the bottom. Yeah, so same flex underneath the mouse here, right around 6 pounds. Up towards the top, it's weird. It gets a lot more firmer up towards the top, even when we get the flex. But down, listen to this. I don't know if you guys can hear that in the camera, but when I press on the bottom, we get some weird creaking sound. But again, you're not going to be pressing on the bottom. These mice are built very solid. Now, the one thing I think is a little bit ridiculous on these mice, and I understand completely why they did it with that charging port on the side here, again, with that rubber little bit that I've been showing you. So it's on the side because, again, the front of the mouse is so low, so you can't put a USB charge port on the front. There's just not enough space. So they put it on the back here. So I get it. That's fine. Take your mouse, charge it, bam, it's charging. But in the settings, again, the customization of it, they talk about using it in wired mode and wireless mode and stuff. And I'm sorry, I don't think any of us are going to be using a mouse wired like that on the side. It's just, there's so much drag and you feel that tension over there. And then again, even if you got it in a bungee, you kind of feel it. It's just, again, these mice are not going to be used wired. I just think it shouldn't even have been implemented. Like, don't let me know my wired settings. It's just a straight up wireless mouse because that's just goofy. I understand why that's there. That makes complete sense. But no, we're not going to be using this thing wired on the side. Now, as far as performance and customization of these mice, there's a lot you can do on these and everything can be actually adjusted right on the mice. Now, these are using a 3395, and again, you have up to that 8K polling rate, which you can adjust from, I believe, down to 500 all the way up to 8K. My primary use with the M64 was 4K, and over here on the M68 was 8K. I just wanted to test the difference. I used most of my stuff in 4K, but I wanted to see how stable the 8K was, and I honestly didn't have any hiccups. When I use a lot of my Razer products with 8K, I tend to have hiccups, which I thought was my system, but maybe it's the Razer products. I'm not too sure. I have to do some more testing, but running 8K over here, perfectly fine, no hiccups or anything. But as far as customizing the mice, with the manual you get in your box here, hopefully you guys can see this in the camera. I'll pull it up a little bit more, but you can see you can adjust everything. You can see your battery life over there, your DPI, your polling rate, your debounce time, and it's kind of like we've seen in like Glorious mice before. You kind of hold the buttons down and everything adjusts. Coming over here, motion sync, sensor mode, and then lift off distance. So as you see, there's a lot you can adjust on these mice, and right on the mice, no software needed. Now, as far as no software, there is a firmware right out of the box, at least for the ones I have, which maybe they're just early versions, but I had to go to Xtrfy's website and update the firmware. Super easy. Firmware update for the dongle and then the mouse as well. One thing I mixed up there when I talked about that polling rate, you can actually adjust it down to 125 up to 8,000. So I'm not sure if anyone's going to adjust it that low, but again, super cool that everything can be adjusted there. And it does show you, again, your polling rate and then your DPI on the dongle. Would have been really cool to show the battery life there. As you saw over here, you can hold down the buttons and it shows the battery life over here. I would have liked how Razer does it, and you can adjust it to show the battery life on the dongle. Would have been really cool to have that one extra light there just for that visual reference right in front of you. But I want to touch on one other thing here. As far as this sensor mode, if you saw in the camera, you got pro gaming mode, you have standard gaming mode, and you have low battery mode, which I think we all understand what low battery mode is. And I was kind of wondering, like, okay, what do each mode, or what does each mode kind of do into the mouse here? So I asked Xtrfy themselves, the difference between the sensor mode is how much detail the sensor reads and sends, and how full packages are being sent. So pro gaming mode sends full information packages and therefore consumes a lot of battery. Okay, this mode should be used for FPS games. Standard gaming mode are for low precision games like MMO games and consumes normal battery life. Low power mode obviously suffers or is for normal surfing or daily work and have long battery life. So I don't know, is that sensor mode, is that kind of like what we see in products before? It's just like where you got low battery mode or power save mode? I'm not too sure. My use, again, was over here in standard, and then I tested it out in pro gaming. And I honestly didn't notice much at all, but that also goes right into using it 4K and 8K. Again, the difference is mild. I mean, I can't even tell a difference. You got to be a top tier player with a top tier PC, a top tier monitor, which I got a lot of good stuff in there, right? But again, me not playing many FPSs, I don't notice anything. I think you got to be playing really, really fast paced to notice those minute things. Again, 8K to 4K. I mean, if you're down to 125 hertz to 8K, yeah, you'll notice that difference. But again, talking pro game and standard gaming, I never use low power mode as I don't use it in any of my products. But again, talking about those differences there, no, I didn't notice a difference. But maybe if you're a top tier player, let me know down in the comments. Do you notice minute differences like that, like pro gaming and standard gaming, or say 4,000 to 8,000? But for my time actually using these mice, they were absolutely spot on. No hiccups, no delays, no nothing. It was really nice to, again, be able to dabble with 8K again, even though I can't tell the difference from 4K to 8K, but being able to set my product at 8K, I thought it was always my system. But maybe it was the products, because these ran butter smooth no matter what setting I had them in. Now let's go and talk about the buttons on this mouse. Now looking at the scroll wheel here, you can see it is rubber coated, and you got it again going black to the white rubber. Over here on this one, you got it going white to the black. Now looking at the scroll wheel on the M68, you can see it's recessed pretty nice. I can pretty much roll over it. But coming over here to the M64, it is up a little bit more. So they're not the same. This one's almost like a speed bump right there. I got to lift my finger up. Me personally, again, I really like, again, just being able to roll over it here. As far as the side buttons, as I mentioned, whenever I grip these mice, I catch myself being right towards the back one. Kind of hard to stretch up and get the front one. That goes on both of them here. But really nice side buttons. Again, they do stretch out of the mouse, the frame there. Hopefully you can see that in the camera. So they're not recessed in. You can definitely decipher both of them. They got that gap in there and all. Again, really nice. But again, with my grip style, I caught myself just being able to access the back one. Now let me give you the quick sound test of both of these mice. This day and age where we're seeing so many mice have optical switches, they're a little bit more clicky, kind of clacky, right to the point, and a little bit firmer. I don't know what the deal is with these switches, but they feel amazing. I love them. They're just kind of that perfect middle ground. Not too heavy, not too light, not too loud, not too quiet. They're just right there. I don't know. Maybe it's the slope of the buttons, so it's where you're pressing or where I'm pressing the switches here. But man, they feel absolutely amazing. And as far as the scroll wheel, if you heard it in that sound test there, it's not super clicky. Each step is tactile. It kind of has that rollover step, not that quick bump right there. Almost, I would say, glorious feeling, but with a slight bit more tension. Hopefully that makes sense there, but it's kind of like that smooth rollover type of feel on the scroll wheel. So there's a couple questions I want to answer that you're probably asking about these mice. Number one is, are they worth the asking price of $140, which we're seeing all gaming mice these days around $150, right? And I will tell you what, you're the only one that can justify the price, right? But I will tell you the performance and the feel in the hand, these things were absolutely solid and they performed great. The M68 really shocked me. I had such a good time with it and I want to continue using it. And again, it was weird because the M64 over here, I just didn't want to use it. Again, with the low buttons and that hump down there, me being an Ergo fan, it really shocked me. I'm like, okay, I should be thinking the opposite way. So again, the M68 was an absolute blast. Now, luckily, these mice are also going to come in a version that doesn't include the 8K, but everything else is going to be the same on it, and they're going to be $100. So that's pretty cool, but it's kind of weird that the 8K is $40 more. I believe like Razer's 8K is maybe $30 more. So again, seeing that much of a price increase for the 8K is a little bit, makes me scratch my head a bit. I would have liked to see them at 120 and then 100. That would have been pretty sweet right there. But again, do you need that 8K? Again, only you can justify that. But if you just want to try out a unique shape, maybe just start with the $100 one. Test it out, feel it out, and if you really get down with it, then upgrade to these. But the main thing I want to really emphasize here, as I covered in the video, is don't think these are just M4 and M8 clones and just rehashes now with the Cherry Xtrfy badge on the back of it. They are not. These are different mice. And again, they feel pretty darn good. And it's really cool to see Xtrfy still making innovation and changes and unique products in the space, even though they've been picked up by a big company being Cherry. Still seeing the innovation in a quality product like this is just awesome to see. We see a lot of companies get scooped up by big companies, HyperX for example, and we see them kind of drop off. Seeing Xtrfy really, again, still innovate is super cool to see, that we still have that tried and true Xtrfy that we've all come to love. So thank you so much for coming by for this video. I truly appreciate you, and I hope I was able to help you out. And if I was, please hit that thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I hope I catch you in the next one. Bye now.